Tear gas has been added to the game. It comes in the form of tear gas grenades. Security starts with one in their belt, and you can get additional ones in the sec tech, which means you can also restock it with a restock box from cargo. To put it simply, it is just tear gas and a grenade. You press C to activate the grenade and drop it. It actually makes no audio at all right now and doesn't even make sound for like the smoke effect. It's not technically the same as the like a smoke grenade, for example, but if you are in the tear gas cloud for even like a second, it will completely blind you. You'll get messages, like you'll feel a deep pain in your eyes, and it pretty much blinds you. By the way, if you're wearing internals, the tear gas will have no effect on you because, well, you're not metabolizing it. So, as a security officer doing riot control, make sure you are wearing your mask and have oxygen on. Syndicate agents can now buy smoke grenades for 1 telecrystal. Really not much to explain here. It's a grenade that will appear in your hand upon purchasing it. If you press Z, it will activate with no audio at the moment, and it just plumes out into a large smoke field. It can cover entire hallways. Yeah, it covers a lot of tiles, so it is very good at obscuring what you're doing or just getting away. Next is the stinger grenade. Press Z and detonate it in the center. Next is the shrapnel grenade. It is new. Launches a spray of sharp fragments, dealing great damage against unarmored targets. If you press Z, you'll beep it just like the explosive grenade. It'll go off. And yeah, this one's also very, very deadly. 180 damage. They're all going to bleed to death. 135. Next is the incendiary grenade. It releases a spray of incendiary fragments igniting anyone near the detonation area. So, just like the shrapnel grenade, you got 3.5 seconds. Beeps twice. Put it in the middle. And it shoots out fire grenades, or fire bullets that don't do immediate damage, but they do give you a ton of burning stacks. Even from where I was standing, if I stop, drop, and roll now, I still might not even live. No, it looks like if you react pretty quickly, you will live. But being set on fire like that will basically take you out of a fight and do damage. There is the cluster grenade, 3 explosive grenades bundled together. The grenades get launched out. So it's like the cluster bang. And it was set to a 3.5 second timer. I'll press C just right here in the middle of the room. Step away from it. It does shoot 3 grenades in separate directions. It basically is like a carpet bomb. There have been some additions to how DNA is left. Melee weapons that deal blunt, slash, and pierce damage will now transfer DNA. So for example, if I take out my knife and hit this person once with it, you can actually scan the knife, and it will show you that of course there's my fingerprints on it, and it is still labeled as fingerprints, but it will give the fingerprints of the person that it hits. So that can be used to figure out weapon used at a certain crime. And it goes all the way down to where if somebody gets gibbed, you can, again, scan their brain, for example, and it will show you that there is specific DNA on it, and it will show you that it belonged to this person. So you can use that to help determine whose body parts are whose. This is pretty big for detective gameplay in general, and you can also now use things like soap to wash off DNA, but if you use something like soap on a weapon, it gives you a pretty lengthy do after, so you can't just sit there in the open washing off your murder weapons. So if you rescan the weapon, you will see that there is evidence of slippery green residue, meaning that it was cleaned. So that is another element that detectives have to look out for, and that criminals will have to work around. Hypodarts have been added. For 2 telecrystals, a seemingly unremarkable dart with an enlarged reservoir for chemicals can store up to 7 units of reagents and instantly ejects when it hits its target. It instantly injects all 7 units if you throw it, and it only injects 1 unit if you melee with it. However, with the right combinations, you can actually one-hit kill people at full health with it, or one-hit crit to be more precise. So if I just throw the dart in them, it's pretty inconspicuous, especially depending on the type of chemical or reagent you use. But in just a few seconds, you can have a 2 telecrystal one-hit crit anyone armor because of, well, the certain reagents you can use. This is a little 2 for 1, and I might as well include them together. Bags now have inherent explosive resistance to the contents of the bag. Syndicate bags actually reduce it by 90%, where normal bags only do 10. Explosions have a new visual effect, which makes the flames last longer in an area, so it makes it more apparent exactly where a grenade is hitting. But just for demonstration purposes, I'll detonate a grenade right on top of the bags. And inside the bags, one had an IED in the Syndicate bag, which did not explode. And inside the other bag, which had an IED, it did explode. That means the Syndicate duffel bag is a even larger upgrade over normal duffel bags and other bags because it can protect your explosives inside, and it is good to protect them because you don't want to chain explode with your explosives. Explosions now reverberate through the entire station, and explosions also have different audio depending how far or close you are to them. There is a C4 about 30 or 40 tiles above me right now, so it's completely off my screen and you can't even hear the C4 counting down, but when it explodes, you will hear it reverberate through the station. So anyways, you'll now hear bigger explosions from across the station, and it just adds so much immersion hearing bombs detonating on the other side of the station. Makes you feel like you're definitely more connected to the problems that you might not directly see because of that. Cybersun and CentCom pens have been updated to actually let you edit papers that have been stamped and already written on. So if you ever found a piece of paper with approved or the captain's stamp on it, you could literally edit it with your Cybersun pen and just say, give me AA. Your results may vary on getting that AA though. The chemical synthesis kit has been added to the game. It costs 4 telecrystals and nukies, and syndicate agents can purchase it. Inside there is 2 small beakers, a dropper, chemical analysis goggles, 2 vials of Vestine, an empty vial, and a syringe of stimulants. Vestine is required to make more dangerous reagents like Nocturne, which has been removed from the uplink. You can also make stimulants and the ever so deadly Lexerin. This also means that these reagents are just not available to people otherwise if you're not a syndicate because you can't get access to them. And I would say directly nerfs stealth gameplay because anyone who doesn't have access to a chemical dispenser can't make use of Nocturne. Things like the Hypopen have been somewhat directly nerfed by this, but we'll have to see how this actually plays out in-game first. Vials have been added to the game. They're practically identical to bottles. They still spill if you throw them, but they're a bit more durable, so if I throw it at the wall, you'll see the vial didn't break, but it still spills the reagents, so this might be a little bit better in certain applications. You can now drag drop items out of your inventory directly, making inventory management much quicker. The electrolysis unit and the tabletop centrifuge have been added to the game. There are a few things you can break down with these, so if I put a beaker of water in the electrolysis machine, it will turn on and have this audio indicating that it is working. And when it is done, it will spit out hydrogen and oxygen. The centrifuge can be used for other recipes like breaking down welding fuel or slime. You can look at these things in the guidebook. Condenser has been added to the game. It basically just takes gases and turns them into a liquid. The condenser itself has like a container to store reagents, and for this example I have plasma hooked straight up into it. If you take something like a beaker and just click on the condenser, it will transfer it into the beaker. You can use this to harvest things like oxygen, nitrogen. Plasma is probably the most useful and has the most practical effects because plasma is somewhat harder to get in a liquid form and has use in liquid form for like chemicals and stuff. But either way, this is still a cool addition to Atmos gameplay and potentially other branches as well that wish to utilize it. Gaseous plasma is now a limited resource. Stations no longer just have unlimited amounts of plasma. There are no plasma miners on stations anymore. You now must go to cargo and ask for plasma canisters, which are quite expensive in order to harvest more plasma. But due to this, you can still use plasma to make money for cargo, so you can basically use it as a trade exchange. The prices and things have been shifting, so this might be quickly out of date. But either way, you need to go to cargo to buy more plasma now. All engineer lockers now contain an RCD and RCD ammo. If you don't know what the RCD is, it lets you place things like walls pretty quickly. Has this really nifty animation that was just added. You could then deconstruct that wall with a charge. You can build things like airlocks, which is probably its most practical thing because building airlocks is a pain, and then you can just use an axis configurator on it. If you use deconstruct on a floor, it will destroy the floor entirely, straight to space, and if you use the floors mode, it will replace the floor with a tile. Breaking pipes now actually releases the gas inside, so a common strategy before was to just break pipes with dangerous gas in it, But now if I were to break this pipe that has plasma, it will plasma flood the entire room. Well, I mean, just due to how much is in that pipe specifically. So you now have to actually vent your pipes into space or somewhere else before you actually take them apart. Otherwise, you risk accidents like this. So this makes Atmos just a little bit more dangerous. A new Tier 3 arsenal technology has been added. It is the experimental battery ammo, and it unlocks the Svalinn laser pistol. This was in the game a much longer time ago, and the Svalinn could actually be made at a proto-lathe. It requires 20 steel and 5 bars of gold. It comes with a small capacity cell, and it is a battery-based laser gun, so you can pull the magazine out, or the battery in this case. So a small capacity gives it 7 shots, shoots at 2 shots a second, has a red laser, sounds like a normal laser weapon, and it does pretty low amount of damage. Due to science being able to make this, it kind of has to be a low damage weapon, because otherwise it's a pretty easy to mass produce weapon. Different batteries you can find in the game or make actually now tell you how many shots they have in them. So an antique, which you can find on salvages, can hold 24 shots and it recharges itself. Hypercapacity cells can shoot 36 times, high capacity 21, medium 14, and small 7, so you definitely want to make higher capacity batteries before you put them in this Svalinn due to the low damage, because you're going to need to hit many shots. However, this weapon could be really useful to research for revolutionary rounds, or zombies would be probably the best case scenario, because zombies are weak to heat, and even nukies will struggle against having many more lasers shot at them. Flare guns will now explode in your hand to deal some damage if you shoot something that isn't a flare out of them. Chaplains can now use Bibles on water to make holy water. Holy water is actually a pretty powerful reagent. It basically heals every type of damage in the game. It doesn't heal a whole lot per unit, but I mean, it's just water. So it's kind of like discount Omnizine. It's not quite as effective as it, but you can infinitely produce it. I think the guidebook is slightly misleading here. I think it's also like Trico, where it only works if you're below 50 health. I'm pretty confident about that, at least. May be wrong, but anyways, it's still really good for getting healing out of just water. Artifacts have 2 new effects. There is Spiral Attraction and Spiral Repulsion, so one pulls in a spiral effect and one pushes away in a spiral effect. There are 9 new cargo bounties in the game. Just to explain a few, one of them is you just need 1 anomaly core and it will give you 10 grand, and another one is you only need 7 artifact fragments and that'll actually give you $30,000, which is a lot of money. So mining will be pretty advantageous if this bounty pops up, and there's a few others with varying requirements. That is all I will cover for the week. I want you to thank our maintainers and contributors for all their hard work with the game. And as always, the comments will be down below or on the Steam page, however you're viewing this, and thank you for watching.